Hello there, good evening. Welcome to Talking Point, a special segment on ABC Sports World. Our business is simple, where we present to you every week the African Combined 11 of the week. 2 weeks ago, we brought you the African Combined 11 of the first half of the season. Well, last week we brought you the African Combined 11 of last week. This week we are bringing you the African Combined 11 of the previous weekend. This week we've got some very interesting names and very interesting formation. This week we are going with a 3-5-2 formation, which is quite different, an ultra defensive formation usually used by Italians, especially the Inter Milan dynasty. Remember, Antonio Conte used that formation to win the Scudetto about 3 years ago with Inter Milan. And a few years ago as well, his successor, Simone Inzaghi, also used the same 3-5-2 formation with Lukaku and the Argentine Lautaro Martinez up front to win the league. So this is a very interesting formation. We'll get right into it. This weekend, we've got an interesting name in the goalkeeping position. His name is Yaya Fofana. Yaya Fofana is the goalkeeper of the Ivorian national team and also the goalkeeper for Ligue 1 side Angers, which means he's from the French Ligue 1, Ivorian goalkeeper. He takes the place of the goalkeeper of the week for Africa. He displaces Morocco's Yacine Bono, who's now been moved to the bench. Other goalkeepers who are in the fray are Edouard Mendy of Senegal, Lawrence Atizigi of Ghana, Francis Uzoho of Nigeria, the other goalkeepers, Ronald Williams from South Africa as well. Now let's move to the defense, the three-back line, a three-back formation. At the left center-back position is Evan Ndika. Evan Ndika is the center-back for AS Roma and also of the Ivorian national team. One solid player, moved from Frankfurt in Germany to AS Roma about 2 seasons ago, a mainstay in the Ivorian national team. In fact, it was one of the key reasons why Ivory Coast won the African Cup of Nations last year. He played in the AS Roma's game last week against Parma, where they kept a clean sheet and won by a goal to nil. Evan Ndika performed very well, and he has been actually one of the most consistent and most players with the most appearances in terms of African football on the European continent. Next up is Calvin Bassey. Calvin Bassey is Nigerian and plays for Fulham FC. He's had a very interesting career trajectory. He burst up on the scene when he was at Rangers in Scotland. Then he moved to Ajax he moved to Rangers then from Rangers he moved to Ajax in the Dutch league. From the Dutch league, then he moved to the Premier League. Now he's at Fulham FC. He's one of the most consistent African players on the scene. And if you are speaking about ball-playing centre-backs in the Premier League, he's one of them in terms of tackles, interceptions. He's got a huge physical presence, and he's a mainstay in the Super Eagles national team along with other players, William Troost-Ekong, the skipper, Shemi Ajayi, who plays for West Bromwich Albion. So Calvin Bassey, truly a great player for club and country. Then at right back, for the second week running, Tariq Lamptey retains his place. Last week he was playing as a right back. This week he's playing as a right centre back in a three-back formation. Remember, for the past 2 weeks he has played against his former club, Chelsea. Last week was in the FA Cup. The previous weekend was also in the Premier League each time, back-to-back wins, and he was a quite important player in both games. So he retains his place. He's a player who has struggled with injuries for the past 2-3 years, and he seems to be regaining his form since 2024 into early 2025. We wish him all the best. We hope that things continue to go right for him. Now, the player in the midfield, the five-man midfield, at the left wings of that five-man midfield, we have Omar Marmoush of Manchester City. Remember, Marmoush just moved from Frankfurt to Manchester City. His first 2 matches, he didn't really perform very well. He struggled in terms of his performances, but he seems to have struck gold against Newcastle over the weekend. He scored a first half hat-trick. In fact, he scored 3 goals in 40 minutes, which is immense, which is immaculate. Looking at the kind of players from Egypt who have made it into the Premier League, apart from Salah, he's the only other player from Egypt who have also scored a hat-trick in the Premier League. At the right side of the five-man midfield, we have Dango Ouattara. He's our neighbor to the north. He's from Burkina Faso. Also moved from Lorient in France to Bournemouth in the Premier League about 3 seasons ago. His first 2 years were quite difficult for him, but over the last season, when Andoni Iraola came from Spain and came to manage the Bournemouth team, he's one of those players who has had a breath of fresh air in his career, and so he scored about 7 goals in the Premier League and 2 goals in the FA Cup and other tournaments which they are playing. So he seems to be one player who is doing pretty much well, and so he also makes the cut because he scored a goal in the previous week. In fact, in the last three matches, he has been on a good goal scoring run. In fact, he has scored a hat-trick within the last 3 game weeks. Let's move to the three-man midfield. We've got Ilyas Moriba. He now makes his first ever start in our combined 11 of the week. Ilyas Moriba is of Guinean descent and he plays in Celta Vigo. He is a prodigy who was from the Barcelona Academy. He's played in several places, ended up in RB Leipzig. He was more like a nomad looking for a permanent place of abode. Finally, he has found a place in Spain, not in Barcelona this time around, but in Celta Vigo. Over the weekend, they played a 1-0 draw against Diego Pablo Simeone's Atletico Madrid, and he was one of the main figures who ensured that they were able to get that 1-0 draw. In the midfield, we've got Cameroonian Carlos Baleba. In fact, throughout our combined 11s of the week, Carlos Baleba has featured mostly on the bench. Last week, he played a key role. This weekend, he still maintains his role again in the middle of that midfield. And so Carlos Baleba, the Cameroonian, for the third consecutive time, still makes it into a combined 11 of the week. Then we've got a new entrant here who is from Algeria and he plays for Lille. He's got a very interesting story. Bentaleb. Nabil Bentaleb is a player who a year ago he had cardiac arrest, just like Christian Eriksen and other players had. It was almost as if his career was on the line. He wouldn't have played football again. A few months down the line, he was given the clearance to continue to play football. His first match for LOSC Lille in France, he scored just a few minutes into the game. And so he's a player who we should be looking at for the Algerian national team, a player who when he returned from a long-term battle with a health scare, he scored on his first game. So that's it for our 5-man midfield. Let's go up top. We've got Amine Gouiri. Now, Amine Gouiri also plays for Algeria. Amine Gouiri, initially 3 years ago, was a member of the under-20 side of the French national team, the French under-20 team. Amine Gouiri was one of the mainstays. And you're talking about under-23 talents who had promise enough to ride on and take over Europe. Amine Gouiri was one of the names which was being mentioned. He's played for Lyon in the past. He's played for OGC Nice. He's played for Stade Rennes. He's now playing for Marseille in the French Ligue A. He scored 5 goals in the Ligue 1 this season. In fact, 2 of those goals came over the weekend when he scored 2 goals against Saint-Etienne in Ligue 1 as well. Then we'll go to the other companion of Amine Gouiri up front is Yakuba Minte. Yakuba Minte plays for the Gambian national team. And he also plays for Brighton Hove Albion, which is Tariq Lamptey's teammate as well. Now, Yakuba Minte also scored 2 goals against Chelsea over the weekend in that 3-0 thumping of Chelsea at the Amex Sports Stadium. So Yakuba Minte also joined Brighton recently. He initially joined Newcastle United, but he was loaned out to other teams. He was loaned out to Feyenoord, and then he returned, and then he was sold to Brighton Hove Albion, who decided to take chance with him, and he has already started yielding the needed results. He scored 2 goals against Chelsea. We hope that Yakuba Minte will be one of the bright shining stars for the Gambian national team, the Scorpions, who unfortunately will not be making it to this year's Africa Cup of Nations. Then let's go to the bench. Yashin Bono, who has been displaced by Yaya Fofana, now makes it to the bench. Moroccan goalkeeper, who also plays his trade in the Saudi Arabian League with Al Hilal. Then Edmond Tapsoba. Tapsoba plays for the Burkinabe national team, so he's a teammate to Dango Ouattara, but he also plays for Bayer Leverkusen. This weekend, they drew goalless against Bayern Munich. Pape Gueye also scored a goal. Pape Gueye plays for Villarreal, the Senegalese national team. One mainstay. Last week, he was also in the three-man midfield. This weekend, he's on the bench. And he also scored a goal for his club Villarreal when they played against Valencia. In that match as well, there's another African who scored, which is Umar Sadiq. Unfortunately, he doesn't make the bench, but Umar Sadiq, who is a Nigerian, came from the bench and scored for Valencia. Antoine Semenyo also provided an assist for Bournemouth in their 3-1 win over Southampton, where Kamaldeen Suleiman, another Ghanaian, also scored. Then Enes Nyama is also in fine form of late. He also scored over the weekend and provided an assist. I'm pretty much very happy for one player, Maxwell Cornet. He struggled for the last 3 years ever since he moved to England. Apart from the time where he was at Burnley, where he seemed to have had a permanent and a good form, he has struggled at other places. He's moved from Southampton on loan. He's gone to the Serie A. He's on loan at Genoa. Since he went in his past 3 games, he's either had a goal or an assist. He's in fine form. Victor Osimhen has scored about 19 goals this season. He's also on the bench. He scored a brace in the Turkish Superliga for Galatasaray. This weekend, they'll be playing against Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce. So this weekend is a big match in the Turkish league. Fenerbahce against Galatasaray. Osimhen will be hoping to start because other players are injured. Mohamed Salah as well, the leading goal scorer in the Premier League as well, scored over the weekend. He's also here. Boulaye Dia plays for the Senegalese national team for Lazio. He scored a goal against Napoli in a 2-2 draw. He's a player who scores very much against Napoli every time. A few seasons ago, when they were trying to win the Scudetto, he scored Spalletti's party at the Maradona Stadium, and so he's a player who likes to score against Napoli. Over the weekend, he scored against Napoli for Lazio. Then the last player on our list is Mounir El Haddadi. Mounir El Haddadi is a player for the Moroccan national team, and he plays for Real Valladolid. He scored a brace. In fact, that's been the first goal for him in over a long period of time. And so, well, that's our African combined 11 of the week. We've got a 3-5-2 formation, a lot of entrance into the team.